A supercalifragilisticexpialidocious day, everyone. I am JULAN, but you can call me Sergio, and I will be your teacher for today. And today we are going to explore and uncover one of the most fascinating stories from the Bible, which is entitled The Book of Ruth or the Story of Ruth. But before that, let's begin with the learning objectives for us to know what to focus on and what we are going to achieve at the end of the lesson. Okay, so at the end of the lesson, students are expected to identify and explain the elements of a story, including the character, setting, theme, point of view, and plot. Second, demonstrate empathy and appreciation for the values shown in the story. And lastly, collaboratively create and perform a short play depicting specific elements of the plot. Okay? So now I'm going to narrate the story using this printed animated strip. So listen carefully as I narrate the story. Okay? So we have three main characters in the story. We have Naomi the widow, Ruth the Moabite, and Boaz the Israelite farmer. And the story tells in a fourth chapter. So let's dive in and see how all this unfolds. So the chapter 1 begins with this line, in the day when the judges ruled. So it reminds us of very dark and difficult days in the book of Judges. Because those days, there's no kings yet. Only the judges are the leaders. So there's no good leadership, and there's always a war. Okay? So here we met an Israelite family in Bethlehem struggling to survive through famine. So what do you mean by famine? What comes into your mind the moment you hear the word famine? Okay, very good. So when I say famine, there is no food. Or here, we called it as tagutom. And because of this horrible famine, they move to the land of Moab. And in there, the father of the family died, and the sons married two Moabite women named Ruth and Orpha. But suddenly, the sons died too. So they leave only Naomi and these new daughters-in-law. So Naomi, she has no reason to stay anymore. So she told these women that she's going back home. And Naomi knows that the life of unmarried foreign widow in Israel is going to be very hard. That's why she compels these women to stay behind. Orpha agrees, but Ruth does not. She refused to leave her side and shows a remarkable loyalty to her. And she says this, "Do not urge me to leave you, or to return from following you. Where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God." So this declaration is not just a pledge of loyalty to Naomi. It is a profound statement of faith and commitment. Ruth does not only choosing to accompany Naomi, she's choosing to adopt Naomi's God, people, and the way of life. So the two of them travel together, and the chapter 1 concludes with Naomi changing her name to Mara, which means better in Hebrew. Okay, so do you have any question in chapter 1? None? Okay, very good. So let's proceed to the chapter 2. So in the chapter 2 begins with Naomi and Ruth discussing where they are going to find foods. And it just so happens that it was the beginning of the barley harvest. So Ruth goes out to find some food that day, and she ended up picking up some grain in a field of a man named Boaz, who's Naomi's relative. And after finding more about Ruth, Boaz shows a remarkable generosity to her. He made this special provision that this immigrant Ruth can gather grain in his field. And Boaz was amazed by the Ruth loyalty, and he praised her that God will reward her for her boldness. So Ruth comes home that day, and Naomi discovered that she met Boaz, and she was thrilled and excited, and says, "Boaz is their family redeemer." So what do you mean by family redeemer? Okay, very good. So when I say family redeemer, this is actually a cultural practice in Israel where if a man of a family died and left behind a wife, a child, or even a land, it is a family redeemer's responsibility to marry the widow take up the land, and protect the family. So Naomi begins to hope that perhaps there might still be a future for her family. Okay, so in chapter 3, you can see that Naomi and Ruth making up a plan to get Boaz to notice their situation. So Ruth will gonna stop wearing these clothes of ungrieving widow, and she will gonna show that she's available to be married. Okay, so Ruth comes to a field that night to meet Boaz, and as she approaches, she covered the foot of Boaz. And Boaz wakes up and he's totally startled. So Ruth makes her intention very, very clear. He asks Boaz to redeem Naomi and marry her. So Boaz once again is amazed by the Ruth loyalty and says to wait until the next day and he will redeem both Naomi and Ruth. So we can see here that Ruth and Naomi celebrating together and they are marveled of these recent events. So in chapter 4, it all comes together, but in the last minute, Boaz discovers that there is a family member who's closer to Naomi than he is, and more eligible to redeem the family. But in the last seconds, when this family member finds out that he will marry Ruth the Moabite, and then so he declines. And Boaz remembered that he knows Ruth through character. And so he acquires the family property and marries her. So as the beginning, Ruth was loyal to Naomi, and now Boaz was loyal to Naomi as well. So the chapter concludes with a reversal of all the tragedies from the chapter 1. So the death of the husband and son reversed as Ruth married again and gave birth to a new son, granting joy to Naomi. Okay? So the son named Obed. Obed is a grandfather of King David, and David is the father of Jesus. Okay, so do you have any question in the story? None? Okay, very good. So now let's proceed to the elements of a story. Let's begin with the character. So when you say character class, it is a person or animals that appears in the story. So who are the main characters in the story? We have Ruth, the Moabite, Naomi, the widow, and Boaz, the Israelite farmer. Okay, very good. So let's proceed to the settings. So when I say setting, it is where and when the story happened. Okay, so the the story begins in Bethlehem, where the family of Naomi is struggling to survive through famine, and because of that, they move to the land of Moab. Okay, and there the father and the son died. So Naomi and Ruth decided to go back in Bethlehem or go back to Bethlehem. And this story happens during the days of the judges. Okay? So let's move to the theme. So when I say theme, it is the central ideas or message that the authors wants us to understand. So who can give me the theme of the story? Anyone? Okay, very good. So we have the theme of loyalty, faith, perseverance, and what else? Okay, very good. So, those are the theme of the story. Okay, so now I'm gonna do something that I've never done before. Okay? I will sing a song. But to be honest with you guys, I'm not a singer. My voice is not clear, it's not perfect. So I just wanna share this song to you because this will retell the story in a more in a simple way. Okay? So if you think your ear can take it, feel free to cover them now. And I will not gonna be offended with that. Okay? So here's the song. Hi, I'm Ruth, the girl who never left Naomi. For those of you who don't know, well, this is my story. Back in Moab, my husband died, but I told my mom-in-law that I never leave her side. We went to Bethlehem, a place unknown, but God had the plan, though it wasn't clearly shown. I gleaned in the field, work in my hands, till we met Boaz, the owner of the land. Naomi, my mom-in-law, she had a plan. For me to marry Boaz, oh, he was the man. I covered his feet, and then he understood. He made me his wife, and now I'm from his hood. I am part of Jesus' lineage. From the Moabite women, my life was retrieved. And God used my story to show his love for all who have faith and who will see from above. So that's Jesus, kids. So remember my tale and do not fear. For God will lead you, he'll be near. Trust in him and follow his lead, and he will surely give you everything you need. Whew, I survived. Also, now, what different have you observed during the narration and while I am singing? What difference have you observed in that in terms of point of view? So what point of view I used during the narration and what point of view I used while I am singing? So in a say point of view class, it is perspective from which the story is told. So we have actually three types of point of view. We have first, second, and third person point of view. So let's go back to the question. What point of view I used during the narration? Okay, very good. I used the third person point of view because I am just the narrator and I'm not a character in the story. And I used the pronoun he, she, and them, or they. Okay? So what about while I am singing? What point of view I used? Okay, very good. So I used the first person because I used the pronoun I. Okay, very good. So now let's proceed to the plot. So when I say plot, it is the sequence of events that makes up a story. It's like a roadmap of the narrative, guiding the characters and the readers through the twists and turns of the narrative. Okay, so plot, we have five elements of plot. We have the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. Okay, so that's all for today's lesson class. So I hope you learned something, especially in terms of the loyalty, faith, and perseverance. Okay, so thank you for listening and see you tomorrow. Thank you.